Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Lisa and you're watching YogiHollowfarm. And I've had several requests about taking care of animals in the winter. And what are some of the things that we do. So I thought today was a good day for that. So we were at minus 11 degrees this morning. We had wind chill factor. It wasn't that windy, but apparently the wind chill was well below minus 11. And luckily it's not going to last that long. The prolonged periods are more concerning for me and the animals. However, we're at about 7 degrees now, so that's good, and that's Fahrenheit, of course. So we're in the southern Black Hills of South Dakota, and let me take you around and tell you about some of the things we do, because I know a lot of people have asked about chores and the extra steps that we take. So come on along. Okay, first we're going to start at the chicken coop. So when it's really, really cold, we have a door right there that separates the indoor run from the outdoor run. The chickens will normally not go in the outdoor run when it's that cold. They stay inside. Hi, girls. I collected my eggs, and that's one thing you want to do often is collect your eggs because they will freeze. And then when they freeze, obviously they crack and it's a waste of your resources. The chickens have a base, a heated base, which is this right here, and that will kick on and that keeps their water flowing so we don't have any ice issues. I keep the door closed, and even though the door is open at the top, it keeps them out of a draft on windy and cold days. And it also helps because when the sun hits the metal roof, they also get a little bit of warmth generated by that. I do have a solar light in here, but during the day I don't put it on. We don't use lights to force them to lay or anything. We only use lights for our convenience. So if I come in here to do chores, I've got a solar light. In here I have, in the coop, I have an actual light right there that is electric. The chickens have extra bedding. So that's the biggest thing, is making sure they have extra bedding. I just threw scratch down, and so that's what they're doing, is mixing things up, which is what I like to have them do because it keeps them in the coop and gives them something to do. And the scratch grains will actually help them to generate some internal heat because it has corn, oats, and barley. And so it's really good for them. But at the same time, you don't want them to have a ton of scratch either because they will get diarrhea. So the chickens are really easy. So it is 7 degrees out. And it's about the same in here. So for chores, for the chickens, it's really fresh water and making sure the feed is filled up and making sure they have extra bedding, as well as some extra straw on the floor here. And the reason why I put the straw is just to give their feet a break, not trying to spoil them or treat them like babies because they really do well in the cold weather. However, I find in the freezing weather, when they're sitting on the roost here all day long, they're pooping. So when I have the straw, it makes it easier for me to rake this out and put new straw. So I feel better about keeping it clean. And so I put a bag of feed, it's a 50-pound bag, goes in there and fills it about halfway up. And it usually lasts them about a week. But again, in the wintertime, cold temperatures like this, they need to eat as much as they can, because they'll eat what they need, which is important. That way they can keep their heat up. Okay, so I'm hoping that my camera doesn't have a big smudge on it because it just did a face plant in the snow. And over here we have the turkeys. And the turkeys have a beautiful barn inside. It's nice and clean. Why? Because they never go in it. They literally were outside all night. They are a cold hardy breed. I mean, makes sense. Wild turkeys are out in the thick of it all night anyway. So what I made sure they had was a pan outside with some scratch in it. So I'm going to give them some scratch right now. And again, that's so they can keep their internal energy up to stay warm. And we do the same thing with them. We have straw on the run floor so I can rake it up, because if you watched our last video, shoveling up the manure is next to impossible. And so I'm going to come out later on and try to do that again. So the turkeys have some scratch. They'll take a while to get through that, probably all day long. And then tonight I'll make sure they have some more to get through the night. But just like the chickens, the turkeys also have a water heater. And they also have access to food whenever they need it. We just happen to keep it inside the coop here. And they do have an electric heater base there as well. And then we have the pigs. They have access to water and alfalfa hay 24/7. They know that there's extra feedings when it's cold. They figured that out already. So I'm just going to give them a little scoop of it just to keep their internal energy up. Not a lot. I can't get the bowl if you're stepping in it. Let me have it. So just a little bit. And then they'll get their feed later on. Last night I gave them a little more than that just because, again, it was in the negative temps. They have their hay in there, and they have all that extra bedding where you can see that they nested up in there. So they make a nice little nest, keep each other warm. I know. No, Grant. Back up, Sherm. You gotta get your bowl. You kick it all the way down here. You do. Watch out, Shermie. Oh, Grant. Grant, let me get to it. And you can see they've got nice extra bedding. Usually I put a whole bag of shavings in every time it gets really cold. And since I took a little while to feed Grant, Sherman ate his, so now we've got him all set. And then obviously a stock tank deicer is crucial. So that is running as well to keep the water flowing for them. Oh, and the new gate's been amazing. Just makes life so much easier. You can see some of the challenges that we have. The house is way up there, and on that corner of the house is where the spigot is, the outdoor spigot for water. There's no using the spigots on days like today. They're frozen. It's not even worth me thawing them out. I find it's just quicker. Ryan fills the pails inside, puts them outside for me because I'm the one who usually does chores. And so that's what we do. We also have extension cords. You see the yellow cord here, which runs all the way from the house down to here to keep the tank heater going. We have it on a GFI outlet that's outside the house, so we do have to check it. The only building that we have that has electric is the Chicken Coop on the inside. Everything else we have is solar powered lighting that we got on Amazon, which was really cheap, and they work really well. And so water, feed, and bedding are the most important things, right? So feed, I told you what we do. Bedding, I told you what we do. And water. So water is the biggest pain in the cold temperatures. It is annoying because you have to lug 5-gallon buckets. So like I said earlier, days like today, Ryan is filling them up, or I'm filling them up and then coming down here with them to make sure all the animals have water. The challenge is because the pigs, if it's this cold, the water's not growing, so to speak. We don't have to worry about algae or anything, but we do like them to have clean water. So I usually throw at least 2 buckets in the pig water, sometimes 3 to overflow it. But that trough will take about 7 buckets. And there will be times that I have to dump it and refill it every few days. But I try to get them as good as possible. We have a creek in the back, but it's been so dry, it's rarely running. So it's actually easier to bring it from the house. Also wanted to show you, I'm cold, I can't think straight. Sorry, I got the sniffles. So what we do is run our extension cords through the trees. As you can see, we have nails on the trees, and that keeps the cord out of the snow. And that way we have access to it, otherwise it gets frozen in. And so we have this outside the barn. And the good news about this is these two right here lock together, and it has a light on it. So I can see it from the house if there's a light on it. And if there's a light on, I've got power. And then here we have this outside the house, the barn, because we didn't want it inside. And then this cord here goes to the heater base. So I kind of feel like I'm all over the place, and I apologize. It's because it's cold. I can't think straight. But the other thing is Monica at Bland's Promised Land Ranch is a genius and told me about this amazing idea about these, about using these collapsible hoses. And I was looking at the as seen on TV, and I ended up finding at Fleet Farm some Craftsman brand hoses. And the Craftsman brand hoses are great. I think that they are genius. I think that it's going to extend the life of, I think it's going to extend the season of us using hoses, because literally the moment it gets cold, we're done with hoses. They're frozen. Bringing a solid hose in the house every night is a mess. Not to mention Diesel will attack it. He loves attacking hoses. So what I did was I bought a muck bucket, a cheap one, and put 150 feet of hose of the Craftsman style, and I have that in the house. And so the benefit of that is if the spigots are not frozen, I can use that, which has been really beneficial. So thank you, Monica, for that. I appreciate it. But, you know, I guess I thought that I could get away from using buckets and life would be easy. Silly me. Not happening. So, but I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you're checking on your animals. You're making sure they're okay. Our animals are used to this kind of weather, so we don't worry as much. And that's because they're out in it. They're pretty acclimated to it. However, if your animals are not acclimated, like you're in Tennessee or you're in Kentucky and you don't normally get all this kind of cold weather and you suddenly have it, that's where you have to be more careful. Make sure they have extra bedding, make sure they get some extra feed to keep them warm inside and generate their own heat. But I mean, the pigs, they snuggle up together, keep each other warm. I came down last night to give them an extra feeding because it was going to be so cold, and they were just fine. They ran out to see me, and that's not something a cold pig would do, you know? So I think that that's a really good thing. And I think the biggest challenges also are just keeping water flowing. We had a brand new stock tank heater that died on New Year's Eve, and luckily we had a spare, and the spare worked. But I was out breaking ice for a few hours while the spare heated up. So make sure you have spares on hand, make sure you have extra food, make sure you have extra bedding, all that stuff. Because in the event of like a power outage, your feed store may be closed for a while. You know, sometimes ice storms hit and, you know, they're not going to open because the power is out. So make sure you have all that stuff. It's really important. But other than that, we're surviving. Pretty normal day here in South Dakota. A little colder than I'd care for. But, you know, the ironic part is, you know, hang in there a day and it'll be gone. So we're going to be looking to go back up into the 20s, and I think we're even going to hit the upper 40s in a few days. So we look forward to those days, and those are the days we seize upon to do anything like cleaning barns and taking out hoses and flushing out water tanks and all that. So you just learn to be a little more efficient and smart with the temperature fluctuations. So, but I'm going to leave you with a few scenes of the animals walking around. They're not even bothered by it. And the girls are already inside. All right, guys. Well, I hope this helped. For some of you who maybe don't deal with this all the time, or maybe you do, you're new to dealing with it. But, you know, life goes on, right? Life doesn't stop. It's not like I can sit in the house and stay all warm and snug and look out the window and then say, oh, it's cold outside. No, I have to go out and take care of my animals. So I'm usually out here multiple times a day, making sure everybody's doing okay. So if you have any questions, leave me comments down below. Love to hear from you, and happy to answer any questions you guys may have. I realize that we don't have the cold winters that Canada has, but you know, again, everything's relative, right, for where you live. So have a great day, everybody. Stay warm, stay safe, and take care.